So did NVIDIA just introduce a new type of AI data center that is going to pay you $1,000 per month? Let's actually talk about the details. So, picture this, a normal house in a quiet new neighborhood, and out in the yard next to the air conditioner there is a plain white box. It looks kind of boring, it looks like another piece of HVAC equipment, but inside that box sits 16 NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs, 4 server grade processors, and 3 terabytes of memory. That is more than $250,000 of computing hardware bolted to the side of someone's home. And here is the part that makes people stop scrolling. The homeowner is not paying for it. The companies behind it are paying the homeowner by covering their electricity and internet bills. This is real, it has a name, and NVIDIA is one of the names attached to it. A California startup called Span just announced a partnership with NVIDIA and one of the biggest home builders, Pult Group. The plan is to install miniature AI data centers on the outside of regular homes and small businesses, and Span calls these units XFRA nodes. Each one is a small, liquid-cooled, and quiet, and it mounts outside the house like an air conditioning condenser. The hardware is built by Dell and maintained by Span, and the idea is that instead of building one giant warehouse-sized data center in a single town, you spread the same computing power across thousands of homes with little boxes on each one. Span describes XFRA as a way to turn the unused electricity capacity sitting inside ordinary homes and small businesses into one big distributed cloud the AI companies can rent. It is worth slowing down on the hardware because it is not a toy. Each XFRA node packs 16 NVIDIA RTX Pro 6000 Blackwell GPUs, 4 AMD EPYC server processors, and 3 terabytes of DDR5 memory. Those GPU cards alone run somewhere between $9,000 and $10,000 each. And those processors run thousands of dollars each. The memory by itself would cost almost $100,000. Add it all up and you have more than $250,000 of computing equipment sitting outside a family home. This is the same class of chip that big AI companies are buying by the thousands to train and run their AI models. This is the kind of hardware that normally lives behind locked doors in a guard building, and Span wants to put it on the wall of a house. Now, when you think about this, the design is just important as the chips. The thing is liquid cooled and fanless on purpose. The design is just important as the chips. The whole thing is liquid cooled and fanless on purpose. That matters because one of the biggest complaints about data centers is the constant noise. And Span wants their box to basically disappear into the background of the yard. Span says the unit is about the size of a HVAC condenser, the same kind of metal box that millions of homes already have on the outside. A typical install does not just drop the box on the wall either. It usually comes with a Span smart electrical panel inside the house, the outdoor XRFA node, and a backup battery of around 16 kilowatt hours, and sometimes solar panels on the roof. So the homeowner is not just hosting a computer, they're getting essentially a small energy system built around it. To understand why anyone would do this, you have to understand the problem the AI industry is facing right now. Every new AI model needs more computing power, and computing power needs electricity and physical space. Companies are trying to build huge data centers everywhere, but they keep hitting 2 walls. The first wall is the power grid. There is often not enough spare electricity in one place to run a massive facility, and building new power lines and substations can take years. The second wall is the public. A lot of communities are pushing back hard against giant data centers being built near them, and that pushback has gotten serious. Now, this part is bigger than most people realize. Over the past 2 years, an estimated $64 billion of data center projects in the United States have been blocked or delayed because of local opposition. One tracker counted at least 142 activist groups across 24 states organizing to slow or stop these builds. And it's not a partisan thing. One poll found that 62% of Republicans and 76% of Democrats and 73% of independents think the cost of AI data centers outweighs the benefits. People complain about the noise that never stops, the water used for cooling, the strain on the local grid, the higher electricity bills, and the falling property values. Some neighbors living next to these facilities describe the constant low hum as shaking them to the core, the kind of sound you cannot escape even with the windows closed. Others worry about what running these places does to the air and the water table around them. And because so many of these projects need new substations and transmission lines, the cost of all of that gets passed on, which means even people who never wanted the data center can end up paying more on their own power bill. So the AI industry has a real problem. It needs to build faster than ever, and at the very same time, a growing number of towns are organizing specifically to make sure it cannot build near them. This is where Span's idea gets interesting. Span is a smart electrical panel company. Their main product is a panel that sits in your home and watches how you use your power. and they noticed something. The average American home only uses about 40% of the electricity capacity it actually has available. The other 60% just sits there unused most of the time. And Span's argument is simple. That spare capacity is already there, already connected to the grid, already paid for in terms of infrastructure. So instead of waiting years to build newer power lines for big data centers, why not tap into the unused power that millions of homes are already sitting on? The smart panel can detect the headroom and safely route it to the box outside without tripping your breakers or leaving you in the dark. Now for the question everyone wants answered. What is in this for you, the homeowner? And this is where I have to be a little bit careful because there are some big numbers floating around online. The deal that Span has actually described in public works like this. So Span will pay your electricity bill and your internet bill directly, and in exchange, you pay Span one low flat fee every month. The example Span has given is around $150 a month, which is about half of what the average American pays for electricity and internet combined. And in some cases, Span says there may be no fee at all. So the realistic confirmed benefit is not a fact check in your mailbox. It's a much smaller utility bill plus a backup battery and sometimes solar panels included in the setup. For a new home buyer, all of that gets built in during construction, so there's nothing else to install later. Now, you may have seen claims online that hosting one of these boxes could put around $1,000 a month in your pocket, and I want to flag that clearly. That figure is an estimate floating around social media, and it is not the deal that Span has officially described. What Span has actually committed to publicly is paying your power and internet and then charging you a low flat fee, roughly half your normal bill. Could the payout model change as this scales up and as homeowners ask for a bigger cut? Maybe, but right now, treat the $1,000 number as an unconfirmed guess and not a promise. The confirmed win is a smaller bill and a free backup power, not rent money. It is always worth separating what a company has actually signed up to from what people online are predicting. So why is this a big deal beyond a few houses in a test program? Because if this works, it will change how AI infrastructure gets built. Span claims it can deploy 8,000 of these XFRA units to match the capacity of a typical 100 megawatt data center and do it about 6 times faster and at 5 times lower cost, somewhere around $3 million per megawatt. That is a huge claim. The whole bottleneck in AI right now is power and speed of build out. If you can skip the multi-year fight over a giant facility and instead drop small boxes onto homes that already have the spare power, you potentially unlock a lot of computing capacity very quickly. And you dodge the zoning battles and the angry town hall meetings at the same time. The AI boom would literally move into the suburbs, spread across thousands of ordinary backyards instead of concentrated into one massive building that a whole town is trying to block. Now, not everyone is convinced. A senior infrastructure analyst at the Del Oro Group pointed out some real problems. AI chips work best when they're packed together in tightly connected clusters, not scattered as single racks miles apart from each other. Servicing a fleet of boxes spread across thousands of homes is expensive and complicated. The hardware changes fast, so today's box could be outdated in a couple of years, and the security of a computer bolted to someone's outside wall is very different from the security of a locked, guarded professional data center. His take was that this could work as a complement to big AI campuses, helping with certain lighter tasks, but like running models rather than training them, but probably not as a full replacement for the giant clusters that do the heavy lifting. There are also open questions that nobody has fully answered yet. Who is liable if the box catches fire or fails in the middle of the night? What happens to your home's resale value with a stranger's $250,000 computer attached to it? And would a future buyer even want that? What happens if you want to sell the house or move or decide you don't want it anymore? And what stops someone from physically tampering with a machine that is sitting on the outside of a wall instead of locked inside a guarded building? These are all the kinds of questions that sound small when you're talking about one test home, but they get a lot more serious when you are talking about tens of thousands of houses across the country. So how real is this right now? Well, it's still early, and Span says that within a year it plans to launch 100 home proof of concept with Pulse Group and other home builders, likely a southwestern state like Nevada or Arizona. The first wave focuses on brand new homes under construction because it is easier to install the smart panel, the box, the battery, and sometimes solar all at once during the build. After that, Span wants to retrofit the boxes onto existing homes and small commercial buildings. The longer-term goal is ambitious: tens of thousands of nodes across the United States, adding up to more than 1 gigawatt of distributed computing power by 2027. That is a massive jump from 100 test homes, so the real question is whether the model holds up once it leaves the lab and lands on real streets with real people. Now, here's why this story is worth saving. The AI race has always felt like something happening far away in giant buildings owned by giant companies. This is the moment it tries to move onto your street. The pitch to home owners sounds friendly: a smaller utility bill, free backup power, maybe solar in exchange for hosting a quiet box outside. But underneath that, your home becomes a tiny piece of the global AI grid. It might work brilliantly, spreading computing power across the country and dodging the fights over giant data centers that towns keep blocking. Or it might run into the messy reality of maintenance, security, liability, and people simply not wanting a corporation's computer attached to their house. Either way, the grid that powers artificial intelligence is being rebuilt in real time. And for the first time, regular houses are a part of that plan. So we need to keep an eye on this 100 home test, because if that works, the box outside your neighbor's house might not be an air conditioner for very long.